Hello, hello, hello! I have missed you all so much. It's been a bit. So this month is Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, and I wanted to do a video on it since I have it. Let me give you a quick TLDR on what MS even is, since you might not know. Multiple sclerosis is a potentially disabling disease of the brain and spinal cord, or the central nervous system. I want to make this clear. This is how I am experiencing my MS, and my experiences are not universal. If you think that you have MS, then I would strongly recommend going to a doctor. In MS, the immune system attacks the protective sheath, the myelin, that covers nerve fibers and causes communication problems between your brain and the rest of your body. Eventually, the disease can cause permanent damage or deteriorate the nerve fibers. Think of it like a squirrel chewing on a power line of your body. The immune system looks at your nerves and thinks, "Oh boy, how did we miss this sickness?" and then decides that it was time for nuclear warfare within your body. I was 24 when I was given my diagnosis, and the doctor had the nerve to say, "Well, good news, it's not cancer." First of all, my guy, don't say it that way. But second of all, I'm kind of glad that he said it that way, because he put my mind at ease that while I was sick, I wasn't the kind of sick that had a high rate of mortality. He said it wasn't cancer because, while MS has a low chance of killing you, cancer has a higher chance of killing you, and it's a long and expensive stay in the hospital. He was just putting my mind at ease that you are sick, and you're not likely going to die if you take care of yourself. You're just going to be in for a really long fight. Now, people can be a lot older than 24, and they can also be a lot younger than 24 when they get told about their multiple sclerosis. The signs and symptoms of MS vary widely between patients, and depending on the location and severity of the nerve fiber damage, depends on how bad it is. Some people with severe MS may lose the ability to walk independently or ambulate at all. Ambulate just means move around. Other individuals may experience long periods of remission without any new symptoms, depending on the type of MS they have. For me personally, when I was in the middle of my flare-up, I was very unbalanced. The world was on a tilt, and I was trying to stay upright. My back hurt all the time, and I was in so much pain that I couldn't sleep or eat. I was also a really crabby bitch all the time, like 100% of the time. I was in such a bad mood from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. Also, I don't remember a lot of the year I was given my diagnosis. Like, me being 24 is more or less kind of foggy. My doctor said that I was in so much pain, and it was normal that the time frame is foggy or outright missing, because according to everyone else who was around me, I was scaring them because I was becoming a very different person. The people I loved were scared I would take my own life because of how I was acting. So I went to the doctor, and my doctor told me the news, and then when I was like, I have very little memory of being 24, he was like, yeah, that makes sense. You were in so much pain, your brain was just not about it. Just so we're clear, there's no cure for multiple sclerosis. However, there are treatments to help speed the recovery from attacks, modify the course of the disease, and overall manage your symptoms. I personally have to go every 6 months to get an infusion. This infusion takes about 3 hours, give or take, and afterwards I am very, very tired for the rest of the day and a good portion of the day after. I personally have to get a medication known as Rituxan. Please stand by for the lady I downloaded to explain what Rituxan is.
Rituximab is a monoclonal antibody. It is used to treat certain types of cancer, like non-Hodgkin lymphoma and chronic lymphocytic leukemia. It also treats rheumatoid arthritis, granulomatosis with polyangiitis, microscopic polyangiitis, and pemphigus vulgaris.
I know, this is a cancer medication. But it's been shown to work on the type of MS I have, which is severe and can come back often. I have what is called reoccurring remittent multiple sclerosis. This means it's bad. It's very bad. Multiple sclerosis signs and symptoms may differ greatly from person to person and over the course of the disease, depending on the location of the affected nerve fibers. It also means technically, you can have scars on the brain. Like, that is legitimately what it is. You have scars on your brain. So if you have multiple sclerosis, you technically have brain damage. The scars will never go away, but I like to think of them as, speed bumps for my train of thought. It also means you survived. Your body tried to kill you, and it lost. So, you need to start thinking of yourself as a survivor. Because, that sounds a lot cooler than having some bullshit diagnosis. The common symptoms of multiple sclerosis include numbness or weakness in one or more limbs that typically occur on one side of your body at a time. Tingling? I wish I could explain what that is. It's just sometimes you feel like you've got ants running underneath your skin. It's annoying, but there's nothing you can really do about it. Electric shock sensations that occur with certain neck movements, especially bending the neck forwards or Lhermitte sign. This means that if you bend forward too much, you start to get dizzy. Lack of coordination. You will constantly walk a little bit like you're drunk. So your cane is about to become your best buddy. Or if you have a service dog, you should lean on them, assuming you have one. And that lack of coordination also means you usually have an unsteady gait or an inability to walk. Partial or complete loss of vision. Usually only in one eye at a time. And it usually has a pain that comes with it before you just lose it. You can also have prolonged double vision or blurry vision. I don't know why. I really wish I knew. I just have it. I'm not a doctor. I couldn't tell you. Another symptom can be vertigo, where you start to get woozy. Also, there can be problems with sexual bowel and bladder functions, which means sometimes if you think, I don't really have to go to the bathroom, when you have MS, if there's a bathroom nearby, take the L. Go to the bathroom. You're gonna thank me later. Fatigue. You get tired easy when you have MS. You have days where, woohoo, I have all the joy and blood and stuff in the world. And then other days, you are tired. Like you could sleep for 1,000 years and it still would not make you any better. Fatigue is one of the worst ones because, man, it comes out of nowhere sometimes. Slurred speech is also another one. I know if you've been with the channel for a long time, you sometimes have caught me slurring my words, not because I'm drunk, because I just don't drink anymore. I can't. It's because of the multiple sclerosis. It's hard to keep my speech in line 100% of the time. So slurred speech is normal. I promise. Cognitive problems and mood disturbances can also pop up. For me, personally, for my MS, when it's getting close to my next infusion date, my tolerance for anything goes way down and my mood sours. I try to keep myself happy as often as I can because it helps my MS stay dormant, or in medical terms, in remission. So when the infusion date is coming around, I try extra special hard to keep myself happy. It's the reason I like to do the things I want to do as often as I want to do them, because my mood being in the green also keeps my health in the green. So I tend to stay away from things that can sour my mood because I know it will not end well for me. This doesn't mean life allows for that, but I've had to learn how to feel my negative emotions, cry about it, and then let it go, because keeping the negative inside will cause long-term damage that can end in disaster. Most people with MS have a relapsing remittent disease course. They experience periods of new symptoms or relapses that develop over days or weeks and usually improve partially or completely. These relapses are followed by quiet periods of disease remission that can last months or even years. So, at the time of this recording, which is in 2024, I have not had a relapse in years because I keep myself happy and healthy, and I get my infusion every 6 months on the dot. This does not mean that my MS is gone. It means that I have more or less put this aggravation to bed, and so long as I can keep it asleep, the better off I am in the long run. However, small things in the environment can also cause issues. Even if you keep yourself positive and happy all the time, small increases in body temperature can make everything terrible. When you have multiple sclerosis, you can have it to where you cannot regulate your body temperature. This means, for the people who don't have it, who might have stumbled upon this video, People that have multiple sclerosis can have it to where they can't regulate the temperature of their body, meaning if it's really hot outside, the body naturally tries to cool itself down by sweating. People with MS, their body has a broken AC unit. It can't figure out if it wants to be hot or cold. These aren't considered true disease relapses, but pseudo-relapses. And this is something that I deal with. I can get chills in the middle of the night and shake myself awake. The summer sun can cause me to feel unwell if I stay out in it too long. And me and winter are not friends. It's a blood feud. I hate the winter so much because the cold just, it feels like it invades my bones. It's terrible. So I go out when the weather is good enough for me to go out, but who doesn't? But you have to be aware of if you have MS and you get told by your doctor you might not be able to regulate your body temperature, you now have to be very aware that while you might not see that you're starting to get a little woozy, you need to start being hyper aware of how the temperature and weather outside can affect you. Because at least 20 to 40% of those with relapsing remittent MS can eventually develop a steady progression of symptoms, with or without periods of remission, usually within the 10 to 20 year marker from the day they get diagnosed and they start getting their medications. This is known as a secondary progressive MS. So a quick way to explain this. In about 10 to 20 years, you can get another flare-up in your MS. It's like flare-up part 2, electric boogaloo, except not as fun. The worsening of symptoms usually includes problems with mobility and gait. The rate of the disease progresses variably, like it varies greatly among people with secondary progressive MS. Some people with MS experience a gradual onset and steady progression of signs and symptoms without any relapses. That's known as primary progressive MS. I will be honest, because I am not a doctor, this is all just information that can be found in general on the web. I went to the Mayo Clinic. This is just straight up from them. I only live with the disease. Therefore, my personal experience on it is my own personal experience. I just want to share with you, for the month of multiple sclerosis awareness, what it's like having it. Because a lot of people really don't know what it is. And I can tell a lot of people don't know what it is because it's not often talked about. And unless you know about it, you really don't know about it. And that's fine. The cause for multiple sclerosis is straight up unknown. No, for real. Where cancer and other immune diseases have a root cause, MS seems to have no origin. It seems your immune system woke up, said fight me, and went from there. It's considered an immune meditative disease in which the body's immune system attacks its own tissues. So the trade-off is the immune system of God. And then it can fight itself, and that's no bueno. In the case of MS, this immune system malfunction destroys the fatty substances that coats and protects nerve fibers in the brain and the spinal cord, which you need. Think of your nerve fibers as the puppet strings that make all of this work. If the puppet strings don't work, you don't move, Pinocchio. So what is myelin? Because we need to talk about that so you can better understand the sickness. Myelin is comparative to like an insulation coating on like electrical wires, where the protective myelin is damaged and the nerve fiber is exposed. The message that travels along that nerve fiber may be slowed or blocked, or outright just never get there. Like the comparison I made before, the squirrel eating a telephone wire. It can cause a lot of damage and even break the wire in two if no one stops the squirrel, which in this case is the multiple sclerosis flare-up. It isn't clear why multiple sclerosis develops in some people and not others. A combination of genetics and environment factors appear to be responsible. Kind of. Because when I spoke to my doctor about this, MS shows up like a bad joke for some people, but it's not necessarily genetic. Where cancers can be handed down like shitty family heirlooms, multiple sclerosis technically doesn't reside within bloodlines and family trees. It can pop up intermittently in the same family tree. That doesn't mean it's handed down, right? It doesn't mean great-great-grandma had it and now you have it. It could mean great-aunt Judy 3 times removed from 1812 had it and now you have it. It's not genetic. It's random. It's a bad joke with a shitty punchline. For me, it was a bad joke with a shitty punchline because I had been healthy my whole life. My medical record was paper thin because other than the shots everyone had to get, I was never really sick. So when I got sick, I didn't like the punchline. I didn't like being the star of the comedy show. I wasn't happy to be Pagliacci. I was very upset. And that's okay. If you get told that you have MS and you're angry about it, that's fine. Don't let it consume you and get you down, though. You have a lot of life left to live and a lot of people to prove wrong on top of it. Be upset, but don't be upset to the point where you die about it. Just so everyone watching the video knows, while no one knows how you get MS, it doesn't mean that the doctor hasn't narrowed down some things about it. Right? It's been around long enough. There are many factors that can increase your risk for developing it, but for the most part, it's just here, life's like a box of chocolates, Forrest Gump. You never know what you're gonna get. But let's go through some of the things that doctors have nailed down definitely about MS, right? Other than the genetic factor being a big question mark. Here's what they definitely do know. Age. Age is always a big one for most diseases because multiple sclerosis usually occurs between the ages of 20 to 40 years of age. However, people younger and even older than that have also been diagnosed. Multiple studies have shown that MS rarely starts before the age of 16. Only about 3 to 5% of those people living with MS were diagnosed before 16 years old. 20 to 40 is like the sweet spot. Most people get it right around there because physically, right, you're kind of done growing. Your brain is almost kind of done growing. You're finished, right? The bread is done. It has risen. Age is a big factor. Weirdly enough, sex is another one that they've nailed down. Women are more than 2 to 3 times as likely as men to have relapsing remittent multiple sclerosis, so more women tend to get MS than men. This is just what they have found. If you are transgender, I cannot help you in this. I am only speaking for what the Mayo Clinic has on there, and it just says women. So take that with a grain of salt if you're trans. Still see your doctor if you think these signs and symptoms are something that you are experiencing. Family history. Like I said, there's no real genetic connection, even though family history can have a part in it. They still have to include it because it still can pop up in a family tree. It's just they're so spread so far apart that it's not, right? Do you know what I mean? It's not, they're not sure. So it's put on here, question mark after it. Also, certain infections can also help you get this because a variety of viruses have been linked to multiple sclerosis, including the Epstein-Barr, which is the virus that causes infectious mononucleosis. Sorry, I said that wrong. Mononucleosis. There we go. Race is also a big factor. So white people, particularly those of Northern European descent, are at a higher risk for developing multiple sclerosis. People of Asian, African, or Native American descent have the lowest risk. It doesn't mean they don't never get it, it just means it's harder for them to get. A recent study suggests that the number of Black and Hispanic young adults with multiple sclerosis may be greater than was previously thought. Because of course it was. A lot of stuff for a long time was done for basic white guys, and now, we've moved past that and, oh boy, the world is bigger than we assumed. Another factor that they have narrowed it down to is also climate. MS is far more common in countries with temperate climates, including Canada, the northern United States, New Zealand, southeastern Australia, and Europe. Your birth month may also affect the chance of developing multiple sclerosis, since exposure to the sun when a mother is pregnant seems to decrease later development of it in the children who end up inevitably getting it. What this means is, do you live in a mountainous, cold region? You most likely are going to get it. They don't know why mountains and MS link together. It's just a weird thing. Also, having a lack of vitamin D. Like, when I got diagnosed, they had to do all my levels and stuff, and they asked me, how are you alive? Your vitamin D is in the negative. And I had to explain to them, I do coding for a living, I don't really go outside, and they're like, you should make it a point of, going outside more. I've made it a point of going outside more. I also have to take vitamin D supplement pills because my body does not naturally produce enough vitamin D to be considered healthy. So, please be advised, when you get MS, they are going to run a whole panel on you and you're about to find out you're not as healthy as you thought you were. Sorry. Your genes also play a big factor in this because they found that chromosome 6p21 seems to be associated with multiple sclerosis. They're still investigating how. But also, boo, you whore. Don't blame your genetics, they're doing their best. Obesity. Everybody always puts obesity. Sorry, if you were chubby, it might be, a thing. Smoking is another one. Smokers have a higher likelihood to develop it than people who don't. You may also develop, if you have multiple sclerosis, muscle stiffness, severe weakness, problems with, like I said, the bladder, sexual function, cognitive problems like forgetfulness or word-finding difficulties. It's the reason why in a lot of these videos you hear me sometimes stutter. I have to be like, oh, I said that wrong. I am aware I said it wrong because of the MS. You can also start to develop mild depression, anxiety, and even go through mood swings. Also, this is super rare. You can also start to develop seizures, but, that's rare. Again, talk to your doctor. You should listen to your doctor and keep them up to date on your overall health. So again, while my own personal experience with MS has shaped itself a certain way, it does not mean your MS might also shape itself in that way. Please speak to your doctor if you think that you are having any of the symptoms. Stay safe and please stay healthy. I love you guys. Bye!